Welcome to Keeping the Beat, an engaging web series hosted live by TNMEA in partnership with the CMA Foundation. Tune in weeknights Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time to learn from and interact with music professionals from around the globe, representing every facet of the vast world of music. Today is Monday, June 29th, 2020, and this is our 54th nightly program. My name is Julie Hill. I'm chair in the University of Tennessee at Martin's Department of Music and also a proud co-coordinator of Keeping the Beat by TNMEA. I have the honor of hosting singer, songwriter, and guitarist extraordinaire Lindsay Ell this evening. We encourage you all to interact by replying to this live video stream with your questions and comments, which we will respond to throughout the hour with the assistance of our KTB team member, Chelsea Jones, who is on assistance tonight. Thank you, Chelsea. One disclaimer, while this is being live streamed, it will remain on the Keeping the Beat Facebook page and YouTube channel forever. So watch your comments if you don't want anyone to see those. I'll get the program started now by just asking Lindsay to speak about her background and where she grew up, maybe where you went to school and your musical path that has led to stardom. Lindsay Ell, everyone.
Hi, Julie. Thank you so much. I grew up in a town called Calgary, Alberta. It's up in Canada. And I had a really musical beginning, I guess you could say. Everybody in my family plays an instrument. My mom got my brother and I started playing piano when we were both 6 years old. We learned classical piano. And then I picked up a guitar when I was 8 years old. And it was a lot cooler to play Shania Twain songs on the guitar. And my dad played. He was a really, really good guitar player, and he played pretty much everything with strings. He played mandolin and bass and fiddle. And so I was just surrounded by music. And every Christmas was all about like family jam sessions and stuff. And so I remember following my dad around to all of these, bluegrass camps that he used to go to. And I was the tiny little blonde girl with this massive guitar, like following my dad around and all with all of his friends. And we would just sit there and play fiddle tunes till 3 a.m. And it's how I learned really how to play, was just playing with other humans. And so growing up, I bought a 15-passenger band van when I was 16 years old. I was the coolest kid in high school because I could only afford to buy one car. And so I would drive that thing to school, and then I tour with it on the weekends. And I learned how to play by doing it every night and by playing 3-4 hour bar shows. I was too young to play in a bar, so I would get this pass issued that said you are not allowed to participate in any drinking or exotic dancing. And I would have to carry this pass with me because I was underage and I was playing in these bars. And so I was like, well, no, my whole show's ruined. No, I'm just kidding. But it's how I learned how to do my job, basically. I played so many shows so early that pretty much everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. Like the PA system would die, my amp would blow up, the monitor speaker would go out, my guitar cables, like everything would go wrong. And so I just got used to figuring it out. And the saying the show must go on, I just got used to still entertaining regardless of what chaos was happening. To which I think it's something that has served me so well now, living in Nashville. And the stage is just where I feel most at home. It's my happy place. I've been living in Nashville now for 10 years. I love this town so much. I never wanted to sign a record deal in Canada because a few of my friends who signed Canadian record deals would then try to come down to the States and sign record deals down here, and they couldn't because they had already signed away everything to different companies in Canada. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to wait to sign a record deal till I get to the States. And so I went down to LA for 6 months to do a little bit of songwriting. And somebody finally was like, you should check out Nashville. I think you'd really like it there. So I remember getting off the plane that very first time with one person's name on a piece of paper. And that was all I knew. And gosh, now 10 years have gone by. It's crazy how fast time flies. Sorry, that was a very long answer to your question, Julie, but
It was a very open-ended question, but that's beautiful. And I love how you just learned organically. I read your bio many times today, and I know that your bread is also buttered with international concerts and performances, and the way a lot of people, my specialty is Brazilian music, and the way choro music is taught, for example, it's community based, and people start learning from the elders, from the time they're kids, and they it's enculturation. They do it year after year after year, and then suddenly they are these highly skilled, brilliant musicians with this body of repertoire that you have. And I just think that's so great that you evolved organically like that, and not perhaps through the conservatory, or maybe you did that as well. But I think it's beautiful.
Thank you. I did a little bit of the conservatory work, which I'm grateful for now because having that theory base,
Mm-hmm.
I write a lot differently on guitar than I do on piano, just because I've learned the two instruments from completely different sides of the brain,
Right.
which I think is just nice to have, skills that you can lean into from different perspectives.
Yeah, it's hard to navigate sometimes the readers from the non-readers, and the,
Yeah.
from the eyes, and I think it's great to have both skills when you're putting projects together. So that kind of leads us into one of your first talking points, which is songwriting. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I've been songwriting ever since I was 10 years old. And it's just been a thing that I originally did because I would look up to Joni Mitchell. I mean, she was one of my favorite songwriters growing up, and Carole King, and I was like, I want to write songs like that one day. And of course, watching Shania Twain on the TV, being like, okay, I want to do that. So country songs always held such a special place in my heart, and it's where I started, just because I loved the stories that you could talk about in a song. You could listen to a song and hear like this whole story. It was like writing a mini little book to me in my brain. And so I started when I was really, really young, and I only knew writing songs in my bedroom. I would just write songs and play them at, church functions or open mics. And so when I first started coming down to Nashville, that one person's name on a piece of paper thing, I really knew nobody in town, and I had never really co-written before. A little bit in LA previously before I came to Nashville, but I didn't have a lot of experience co-writing songs, which is, for everybody watching, when you get into a room with other people and instead of finishing a song by yourself, you finish it with one or two or three other people. And it's again just a different headspace. Like the song I will finish by myself is completely different than a song I will finish with other humans in the room, and depending on those humans really changes the song as well.
Mm.
So it was a process that I needed to learn how to do efficiently, and yet see the bright side in it. And for a while there, I fell in love with co-writing. I was like, why would I want to finish a song myself when I could bring it in a room with two other brains, and then our three brains will create something so much greater. And so now I try to find a balance between both worlds. This whole COVID quarantine has actually been really good for my, um, we call them 100%ers in town. They're basically when you finish a song by yourself, you have 100% of the song, which is, I guess, what they call it that. But it's been really good for my 100%er brain that I have not exercised for years, just because I've been co-writing with all of my incredible friends. And so now I'm trying to get back to a good balance of it, writing a little bit alone and writing with other co-writers. But yeah, songwriting is definitely a way of life for me. And I mean, I guess to talk a little bit about songwriting tips, the greatest thing about songwriting is that there are no rules. There are no rules on how to do it right or how to do it wrong. Um, I always say, listen to some of your favorite artists and read their lyrics and learn their songs and learn truly what they do. Don't learn it just so you can play it for a friend, but learn it so that you can almost recreate it.
Mhm.
My first producer, Christian Bush, before we went into the studio to record my first album, he asked me, he was like, Lindsay, what's your favorite album? Like, what's your desert island album? And I'm like, Continuum by John Mayer. I love it front to back. I could sing you the guitar solos on it. I know it so well. And he's like, perfect. I want you to go record the whole thing. And I was like, what? He's like, yep. I want you to go record the whole thing front to back, every song by yourself in your studio. You play every single instrument. And at the time, sitting there in a coffee shop, I was like, yeah, no problem. I know this record so well. And then fast forward a few days later, when I have like a 2-week deadline and I'm like learning all of the intricacies of this record that I knew so well. But when you need to recreate, when you need to learn something so well that you can recreate it to all of the little pieces that make it what it is, it's like cooking. It's like trying to make a recipe by like watching what goes into it and like looking at it, or watching TV and watching somebody make a dinner and then actually making it yourself. You have to learn something to such a deeper level. And recreating Continuum was such an incredible learning experience for me because I really studied those songs and figured out why I love them so much and what makes them what they are. And so, as a songwriting experiment alone, let alone a production experiment and figuring out how I wanted my own record to sound at the time, it was eye opening in so many ways. So, I'd say learn what you love, like learn why you love what you love. And then a couple of other tips, and then we can move on because I could talk about songwriting forever. But I'm terrible at editing myself too soon. And so I really try to focus on just write things down. And you can always edit something later, but you can't edit a blank page. You can never edit a blank page. So just get that creativity out of you, whatever it is. You know, I keep voice memos on my phone. I sing things into my phone all the time, whether it's like guitar licks. If you listen to the voice memos app on my phone, you would laugh because I'm like in the middle of an airport and they're like, flight to Baltimore is leaving. And I'm like, I just be a sponge for your own creativity and find ways that you can record that down so that you can then listen to it and judge it and edit it later. But anytime an idea pops into my head, I'm like, oh, that's a good song idea. And I like sing it into my phone.
I love, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. The last thing I'll say is sometimes when I've had like a lot of writing sessions back to back to back to back, and I just feel a little bit creatively empty or spent, or I'm like hitting a writer's block. I will say there is so much use in, I mean, you can call it creative writing, you can call it, I mean, there's so many different names for it, but just opening up a journal or opening up your laptop or whatever and just writing whatever you feel and get honestly 3 to 4 pages out. And anytime I feel a little bit spent or I feel like I'm at a writer's block to a certain extent, doing that always helps me just sort of like slough off my own inner dialogue of my brain being like, Lindsay, you can't write a song right now. And then it gets past that and it gets, you know, down to the nitty gritty of, you know, what might be the song for the day.
I think that's a great point about just having a method of when you have a good idea, when you do have those creative impulses, like put it down because we always like, I'll remember that, but you
I
don't.
know. You don't even 10 seconds later, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'll remember that. And then 10 seconds later, I'm like, what was that?
No, absolutely. That's great. And then when you're creatively tapped, you can go to the well. I love it.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Well, we have some questions coming in, but I'm also a little worried about getting to. You have a lot of things you want to talk about. Let me see if any of these, Chelsea's typing these in, if they relate to songwriting. One does from Makila Wheatley.
Michaela's my girl.
And Makila says, what's the weirdest topic you've ever written a song about?
Wow, that's such a good question. Well, I've done a couple of radio shows where they like they had this program called, I think it was called the 5 minute song or the 5 second song. I feel terrible that I can't remember what it was actually called, but and they basically, you pick words out of a hat and then you need to write a song incorporating all of those words. And they are like the hardest words. It's like bubblegum, astroturf, toothpaste, and lawnmower or something. Like it's the hardest things ever. And so that was really challenging because then you have about 10, 15 minutes where you need to go write like a verse and chorus, incorporating all those words. And then you need to play it live on air. So that was probably the weirdest. I mean, I've definitely been in a few weird co-writes where, you know, somebody throws out an idea and at first it sounds really cool. And then a couple hours into it, you're like, where is this going? I don't really know if this is a good song. And so, I mean, again, just by doing it more and more and more, you get better at anything just by more and more practice. I've gotten better at navigating some of those rights. And I think it's really important to know that you never need to finish everything. Sometimes it's better to be like, okay, this idea still needs to percolate a little bit. So let's put it on the shelf over here and let's start something else. Like having no ego about yourself and about your ability to finish maybe an idea that isn't done yet has been something that's really helped me compared to slaving away at like working on the wrong song. You can just put that to the side and you can start something else. Some of the most incredible songwriters I've written with, I've gotten to sit in the room with some pretty big writers, and some of them are the most ADD people I've ever met. Like their brains are firing in so many different directions, and you write 6 mini songs in a write and finish one. And I'm just like, my brain can't even keep up with how fast yours is moving. But they're some of the most incredible songwriters. And I think it's because they have no ego to stay held to the wrong idea. And they're just really wanting to find that one that sticks. And they're like, wow, this is something great.
That's interesting, that weird moment that you mentioned that you had experience with, because there's a couple of international songwriters that I like. One of them, of course, is Brazilian, which is my thing. Yeah. But Carlinhos Brown is his name, and he changed his name to be after James Brown, and he's one of my favorite artists. But he thinks of words as basically instruments. So like the voice is an instrumental, so syllables, all these things. So he'll, like the words you said, aquarium, apple,
right,
that have no real story to them, are just instruments because they have different sounds. So I think
that is so interesting. And actually, like when I'm trying to figure out a melody, sometimes, you know, I generally come up with an idea first. Like I'll say, I want to write a song called Apple today. Mm-hmm. And then I'll pick up my guitar and I'll figure out like either a cool progression or guitar lick or something. I'll build a melody, and then lyrics always usually come last for me. But when I'm building a melody, I'll sing random sounds or vowels, which can often dictate a lot of the lyric. Like you'll be singing, oh, and then I'll find myself trying to find a lyric that matches that, like I will always go or something.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so it's weird. It's weird how words are like their own instruments.
Soundscapes. It's very a contemporary concept though that relates to songwriting. Yeah. Checking our feed here. You've got lots of fans on. I'm not surprised. Okay, I have to vet this one from Fallon with the CMA, since she's my partner in crime.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite song that you've written?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask what my favorite song of all time is. My favorite song that I've written, probably right now, it's a song called Make You, and it isn't out yet. It comes out actually in a little bit. It's just going to be an important song on this next project. I'm talking about my story when I was a little girl that I've never talked about before. I feel like on this next record that comes out later this summer, I've just gotten a lot more honest with my songwriting. And I feel like that's truly when you connect with people. I know some of my favorite songwriters, the more real the lyric gets, the more honest the lyric gets, is the songs that hit me in the heart. And I'm just like, oh my goodness, I've been there. I know what that feels like. And so I've really tried on this next record to sort of peel off those extra layers of the onion and get a lot more vulnerable. So
No, I love from your website, the very first thing I read about you months ago was your quote, I've learned to care a little less about what everybody thinks. Following my gut instinct, truly saying what I want to say, that's the magic, the elements that make you relatable and real. Before I was worrying about writing for radio for fans, but now this is what I know. This is my journey. And the more honest I get, the more effective it is. I thought that was just so beautiful. That's
Thank you. I mean, it's honestly how I feel. I just, maybe it's these last 2.5 years of my life while I've been doing like a deep dive into my own brain and my own heart and writing this record and being single the whole time, like really trying to figure out at least, this next chapter of my life. And I think a lot of your teens and, even my 20s, I spent trying to be what everybody else thought I should be, all while knowing what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. But I just spent so much effort and energy trying to be the thing that was cool or that somebody said was cool. And I'm not saying that sometimes people's advice is good, because yes, I am a huge proponent of surrounding yourself with a handful of good people and listening to those 5 or whatever people every single day. But you really need to mold yourself from your own heart and your own voice. Because if you're molding yourself off of other people, one, you're never going to be able to have that internal navigation system that is like the best, being able to listen to that voice of intuition is the best thing to be able to wake up and be like, okay, what do I need to do about the situation? What part of this decision is important? Which way should I go? Should I go left or should I go right? And in the past couple years, I've just slowly started to care a lot less about what people think. And I've gotten to listen to that inner voice within me. And, there are some days that it's still really challenging, but I find that life is a lot easier and you get to work towards what you want.
yeah, I think that well, maybe most especially with women and in possibly the entertainment industry, there's a lot of pressure there. But I think there's a beauty in the aging process that, I mean, you're still very young, but every year for me has gotten better. Like
Yeah.
self-confidence, you don't worry so.
Yes.
It's like, okay, I get this. And it's
Yeah, because you see that like all the time I wasted worrying about what people were thinking of me, most of the time they're worrying about themselves
right.
and what you're thinking of them. And while I'm like worrying about, okay, what is Julie thinking about me? Does she think my hair is this? Does she, whatever? Julie's probably thinking about, well, what does Lindsay think of me? And blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just all a waste of time compared to just being like, what do I feel right now? And what do I want to share in my heart? And what do I think will inspire people the way that I want to inspire people?
Oh, I love it. Let's take one or two more questions on the songwriting topic and we can move.
Yeah, totally.
So this is a good friend of mine and she's been following you on Instagram. And I told you I was Insta stupid and you said there's not such a thing, but my friend Marcy says you cover, she's a big John Mayer fan, but you cover a lot of John Mayer, Mayer, sorry, I said that wrong. Have you ever collaborated with him? Have you written any tunes with him or?
I haven't. I've gotten to meet John a couple of times, and after I recorded Continuum, he was awesome. Like he was so sweet, and he was like, I initially didn't really know how to react to it. Somebody had never recorded my full record before, and he's like, well, Lindsay, you're so talented, and that was one of the coolest things. And John has just been so wonderful, and it was all I wanted to know was that he thought it was cool. And so the fact that he liked it and he saw it as a huge compliment, because that record has truly inspired me so much and changed the course of my songwriting and how I create in such a beautiful way. And so yeah, that's all I really want to know. And heck, if we could have the opportunity to do that one day, I would be all over it. But the fact that he thought my rendition of his Blood, Sweat, and Tears for a portion of his life was cool, was all I needed to know.
Beautiful. So I know that we have talked about this not being about self-promotion, but that happens by nature. So but social media is the next thing, but would you maybe want to play something or sing something
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to promote what you're doing.
You're so sweet, Julie. I'll play a little bit of a song. Gosh, we can talk about social media. One of my other favorite things to talk about. We just released a song last week, so I'll play a little bit about it, and then we can even talk about social media and how we rolled it out and all that good stuff. But yeah, this is a brand new one called "Want Me Back." Typical you, always wanting what you can't have. As soon as I moved on, started missing me so bad. Saying maybe we should try again, try to get it right again. Saying do we have to be done? Don't know why I said goodbye then. And honestly, I get where you're coming from. 'Cause if I were you, I miss my kiss, I'd miss me keeping you up all night. If I were you, I know that losing me would make me lose my mind. You ain't gonna find nobody like me. I'm the best you ever had, and I'm always gonna be. So if I were you, if I were you, I'd want me back too. Yeah, I don't wanna go back to that weekend down in LA. Bet that hotel bed ain't never been the same, babe. Damn it, we were so good then. Think of what we could have been if you'd have just tried. Because I think that I'm worth it. I thought you were perfect, but you had your time. If I were you, I miss my kiss, I'd miss me keeping you up all night. If I were you, I know that losing me would make me lose my mind. You ain't gonna find nobody like me. I'm the best you ever had, and I'm always gonna be. So if I were you, if I were you, I'd want me back too.
I love it.
A little bit of a song for you.
No, so passionate, so guttural. I love it.
Thank you.
From the gut. Dead. Do you need to catch your breath?
No. Oh my gosh. Okay. So social media has been a thing that I've just embraced, because I feel like right now, especially right now in the midst of a global pandemic, but embracing technology in all of the incredible ways that you can connect to a fan base, yes, but even like your coworkers, even to your friends, even to your students. I mean, there's just so many beautiful ways that you can connect to each other. And social media is such an incredible way to do that. I have really worked hard at social media over the past, I'll say specifically 10, 15 years. I am a huge believer in consistency, because I feel like, there are trends and there are things that pop up and go viral out of the blue, and you definitely pray for those moments. But to a big extent, a lot of social media is just consistency. It's posting every single day on certain platforms, or posting every single week on certain platforms, choosing a time to post every week so that your fans can, especially if it's longer forms of content, if it's always a cover song, or for instance, my weekly talk show, like choosing a time to post every single week so that your fans can learn that this is the rhythm they can get used to, or a podcast, having a podcast episode every single week. Because if you do it too inconsistently, people won't be able to really learn your rhythm and latch onto it, and they'll miss episodes. And right now, we follow way too many people in our field that if people aren't constantly watching your posts, you'll fall away in their algorithms pretty quickly.
Right. I love it that you said you develop a rhythm of posting. That's really
Yeah.
um, so. For example, I know there are a lot of people. I'm 47. I have friends that use Instagram.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't use Facebook, but the majority of people in my age bracket, I think, are Facebookers.
Yes.
How do you? My husband was just saying, he was in the room listening to you, and he was saying a lot of stars post their Instagram stuff on Facebook, so it's basically the same thing. So I wanted to ask, how do you adjust your content per social media platform, and how do you target that to that specific market?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's different for everybody. So you need to learn who your audience is. You can learn a lot from looking at your statistics and analyzing that data, because a lot of apps, have even just a little page that you can see the age range, or the is it male or female, or what times are they looking at. All of those statistics and data is really, really helpful. But yeah, I when I look at my statistics of, for instance, my Facebook page compared to my Instagram page, the demographic is significantly different.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I will post something like, for instance, that song I just played. I post the same thing off of every platform. There are certain things that when I release something, I'm like, okay, I need to get this out to as many people as possible. And so I will copy the same post, very rarely though, across all of my platforms. And most of the time when I'm, feeling the most in step of everything, I will post content differently on every platform. Now, it's a job in itself, of which you can only do what you can do. So sometimes it's better to choose, okay, I'm going to focus on Instagram and TikTok. Like, or just choose one. I'm only going to focus on Facebook. And so you can cross pollinate a little bit, but if you really want to foster an audience, it's like learning that platform. Okay, so what's the age demographic of the people who are watching my videos, or replying to comments on Facebook? And
Right.
then it'll change the way, like, for instance, TikTok is an app that the demographic is a lot younger. And so the way I write a caption on TikTok is going to be a lot different than the way I write a caption on Facebook.
So from hearing you say that, it sounds like you do all of that yourself.
I'm kind of a control freak about it. And sometimes I drive my team mad
Well,
because,
I want to point that out though, because in working with bigger artists on this series, I mean, there is a layers of management. Right now, tour managers are, it's probably not so good.
yeah,
And then one of them is listening tonight, a friend, Ed, who's Joan Jett's tour manager and a graduate.
amazing. I love her so much.
But how much of that do you feel like you have to control yourself? It sounds like all of it. I know you have to delegate certain things, but you monitor the metrics and adjust. Do you have a team helping you with that as well, or it's you take
So I
that on?
do have a team helping me for sure. And again, I think it's just figuring out what works for you. I just know that I want fans to know it's me talking to them.
Sure, sure.
And so I would rather say less, but the things I say are, the quality's higher. They just know it's my voice.
Mm.
Sometimes on a rollout, I will, have my team help me posting other things. For instance, when we post cross platform on all of the different ones, I will write what I want to say, and then they can help me facilitate everything to post it everywhere. But I just personally never feel good with somebody saying things for me, because I'm like, well, I wouldn't use that emoji, or I wouldn't use that word. And then it just doesn't feel authentic to me. And right there, it's just like, I can't do that. It needs to be what I say. And so if it takes me a couple of extra hours to post something, then so be it. If I'm in something and I'm busy, then I'll post it when I get out. Or I'll write copy for something, and then get to it whenever I can get to it. But I think it's just figuring out what works for you. You know, there are a lot of artists that their team completely run their socials and that just works for them. And if it does, then great. And I'm kind of jealous, but I just love being able to interact with my fans so much. And I want them to know, it's so important for me to let them know that it's me. I can't respond to every DM because I just get too many of them, but I would rather respond to fewer DMs and have them know it's me compared to having somebody respond to every single DM and it not be me.
No, that's a great point. I completely support that, respect that. And I think that politicians could take a lead from musicians such as yourself, because I think a lot of people don't take the time to write to those leaders that could create change because they feel like it's just going to be an assistant. I guess Twitter is a little different there. I hear that Twitter is very news savvy and you can actually get to the person, but too often we feel like there's someone that's never getting the message and it's a waste of time. And I think that the successful politicians could take a lead from artists like you.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, especially in this pandemic. There are so many things, and even each platform is changing and reinventing themselves as we go. I will say, engaging with fans, responding to comments. Like I said, I don't have time to sit there and respond to every single comment. I want to, but I try to go in and respond to as many as I can, or I try to pick a few DMs to respond to. You know, there are cool things like I have a number now that fans can text me, which is just another thing. It's another thing for me to do at the end of the day, but it also is just a really cool way that they can know that they're talking to me, you know? And again, I'm not going to be able to text back to every single one of them, but it's a way for me to be able to try to read as many as I can and try to respond to as many as I can as them. And I'm trying to find more points where I can, you know, relate to a fan base and have that one-on-one connection.
Oh, that's beautiful. That kind of leads us to the next point. And I don't know if you want to, I don't know how much you wanted to play tonight. We didn't really talk about it.
Oh, I can play as much or as little as you want.
Well, it's up to you. You're the one doing all the work. But
hey, I can definitely play another
talking points. So if you do, it's a good time.
What should we play?
Let's see. There's a question that might relate to that. Which song off from Jennifer Cruiswick? I think I'm saying that right. Which song off Heart Theory was the hardest song to write? You might not want to play that one, but
I will answer Jen's question and then I will play a different song. But probably the Make You song that I was talking about earlier was the hardest to write just because of what we were writing about. But again, the songs that are the hardest to write sometimes feel the most honest and they're the most real. And so maybe that's why it's my favorite, because it was such a difficult thing to figure out. It was like you have all the puzzle pieces there and you're trying to figure out how to put them together. And it was just like, okay, how do we do this the right way? And so you all will be able to hear it soon. But I'll play this song. This is a song from my last record. It was how the album ended, and it's just something that I feel like in the midst of a global pandemic and in the midst of waiting for my new album to come out, I feel this song a lot. It's called Worth the Wait. You keep saying that you ain't ready, so I keep hanging on. It's the same sad situation. I've been here and you've been gone. You keep selling hope, just like candy to a baby. And I keep falling further in, 'cause I keep hoping maybe it'll be worth the wait. Worth the way to push this heart beyond itself, way past what it should take. I'm crazy, I'm crazy, but that's just what you do when you believe that it'll be worth the wait. Can't you see just what you got? Guess that makes me crazy too. I wish that I could climb that wall and fall right into you. You keep pushing up what I keep pulling down. Your love is like a ghost that I can't wrap my arms around, but it'll be worth the wait, worth the wait, to push this heart beyond itself, way past what it should take. I'm crazy, I'm crazy, but that's just what you do when you believe that it'll be worth the wait.
Beautiful.
Yay, Zoom claps. Those have become my favorite thing now.
Yeah, I've been trying to tell people at the end of any meeting or at appropriate moments, I'm like, let's let it be chaos. Everybody and clap, because these
Clap.
muted claps just are not good.
They're not the same.
So, well, that was beautiful. I think that maybe the next talking point, and I've got a few other questions to ask you afterwards that we talked about earlier, but maybe it's appropriate now to talk about building platforms and moving to more of a digital space in terms of your art form in the COVID times.
It's been so interesting to me to watch how everybody has been surviving, because we all need to survive and figure out how to continue to work and continue life. And you know, I know obviously I just know things from a music industry perspective and sitting on a lot of Zoom calls. But it's been so fascinating to me to also watch us adapt to this new normal. Mm-hmm. And however long we need to continue in this new normal, who knows? And I know a lot of us probably have been on a lot of Zoom calls, or depending on your work. And it's just like, oh my gosh, God bless Zoom. Sometimes we need a break from it. But at the same time, it is incredible to me. Like, my manager and I have been on so many different meetings with our team around the world. And before this pandemic, I would have been on a plane zigzagging around the country and the world, doing a lot of things, but feeling a lot more scattered. And it has been such a great learning experience to see how much you can really get done by engaging your coworkers, your students, your fans, your team on, through the internet, which has always been here. But it's just like when you get more creative on how to engage at things right at your fingertips, you can get so much more done. I mean, we talked to the UK in the morning, and then Nashville later that day, and then we're talking to LA later, and then we were talking to Australia later that night. Like, it's really incredible once you only have one way to do things, and how inventive you get with it. And I know, Julie, you and I were talking about the differences between being a solo artist right now and being in a band. And although I told myself I never wanted to be in a band when I was younger, because I was just like, I'm going to work harder than everybody else in my band, and it will probably be the thing that will break my band up. And so I was like, I could probably never be in a band. I mean, maybe one day, who knows? But in this pandemic, it has been nice to be a solo artist for a lot of ways, because I can hop on a Zoom at any time of day and perform and play and do my thing. And a few of my friends who are in bands are scattered in different places.
Yep.
And when they've had, you know, opportunities or something come up, a lot of them can't do it because, they're in different places, or they have different schedules, and they're juggling families. And so there is that challenge. However, it's also kind of cool. Friends of mine, King Calloway, are a band in the country music space, and they are all from different places around the world. And before this pandemic, all of us were in Germany and Amsterdam for C2C, and they were going to London afterwards for C2C. And so I flew home, and it was just around the time when the world was beginning to kind of shut down and everybody was going into quarantine. And half of King Calloway flew back to the States, and the other half stuck around a few extra days in London, because they're originally from Glasgow, and a few of them are from Europe. And they got stuck there.
Yeah.
And so their band was divided across an ocean. And here, you have all of these radio stations asking to hop on lives and all this stuff, and they couldn't do them because they were all in different places. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I feel so much for them, because they're spread across the world. But in that, they put their heads together and started this thing called the house band, like being basically Nashville's house band series. I'm probably botching the name of their incredible series, but it's so awesome, and it's been so wonderful to watch them take light of such a weird situation. And so they've posted, they're great on my social media stats. I give them a 10 out of 10. They've posted every week, the same time every week, a new video with a cover from an artist. And they just do this cover song, and they each record their own like little videos from their phone, and then they edit it together. And it's been so incredible to watch how it's changed the way people perceive them as a band. And really, they've been doing cover songs every week. It's like nothing rocket science wise, but even my perception, I'm so proud of them, and watching them do all these cool collaborations. It's been so cool to watch how, amidst this weird time, they've come out of it as like heroes in their own little right, and they're growing such a cool part of their brand because of the challenges of being a band in the midst of a global pandemic. So I think there are always bright sides to whichever way you want to look. And I really honestly think that's how I've survived in this business, and how I continue to survive, is sometimes you're not going to be standing on the bright side of things. A lot of times, actually, you're not going to be standing on the bright side of things. And so I have just learned to keep throwing pieces of spaghetti at the wall, and eventually you're going to find that one that sticks. If this round peg doesn't fit in this square hole, then I'll go over here and try out this, and then I'll go over here and try out this, and I'll start a weekly talk show and figure out how to do that. And it's so, if I had to go back and retrace my steps as an artist, how I've gotten to this moment, and yet I have so many more dreams, and my bucket list grows by the day that I want to accomplish, I could not retrace my steps once. Because it's like the little weird things that you do, that you're forced to zig when you want to zag, and you're forced to go on 30 Zoom calls a day when that's the last thing you want to do, and you just miss human interaction, and we're all, subject to our slow, jerky internet in our homes. But it causes you to think differently. And I think that is such an incredible challenge to all of us as we're figuring out our jobs, and figuring out how to become better teachers and better educators and better students and better coworkers. It's really good to challenge yourself to think differently and use different instruments than you're used to.
That resonates so much with me, and I'm trying not to talk at all about myself because the program is about you.
No, please.
But I think that the fact that musicians improvise, I mean, most of us do, not all do. We talked about the reading versus the background of learning, but the fact that we adapt and we improvise, and that takes a certain amount of courage, especially until you're good at it. And so sometimes classical musicians don't they're so scared because they're accomplished in one level and then they can't improvise once they're 40. But I think that helps us adapt to what you just spoke about. And, just I'm an administrator mostly now that still plays drums at a university, and we have to get ready for school for fall on like 3 different levels.
Mm.
But I'm like, I got it. I improvise. It's
Amen, girl. Yes, you improvise. And in fact, I think that through improvising, you learn better ways to do your job. Like I want you to tell me in 3 months from now, if you've learned new things about how you were doing things last year on how you could improve your system. Yes, there are no question more challenges and ways we need to work around, and probably you need to teach curriculum completely differently. But I also think it just brings light to new ideas of like, well, hey, what if that was wasting so much time before? What if we did it this way?
yes. The things will stick. I mean, there's so much red tape that shouldn't have been there. It's not all rosy, but a lot of it is breaking down barriers that would have taken decades to with a regular system. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not praising COVID, but I appreciate the push that has created in so many ways. And
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, I know right now as a society, we are feeling so much. It's just a heavy time between a global pandemic, a racial crisis. I feel like this revolution moment we're amongst. And yet, I think it's such a beautiful time for us to learn so much, learn about our humanity, learn to be better humans, learn to listen, learn to be more efficient with our time. And so I agree, 2020 with everybody, it's been a hard year, but I think we're going to come out of it as so much stronger and smarter.
I completely agree with you. And if it takes a pandemic to push those issues, so be it.
So be it. God bless. Like,
You know?
yeah, I mean, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you don't get stronger by not, wearing down your muscles at the gym. You need to put the work in.
Yeah. No, so completely agreed that it's pushing us to talk about things that have been uncomfortable and difficult for so long, and it's like we're on fast forward where we're on steroids right now in
Absolutely.
social justice, and I love it. So thank you for saying that.
Me too. I love it so much.
And we'll come back to that, but I do want to I want to ask you a question about your relationship with the Country Music Association and the CMA Foundation. This show is sponsored in large part by them, and I've worked with Fallon and Tiffany and the whole crew, and they love you. And I think it's really, really cool how when we first started this show, we thought, oh, CMA is on board. Now we'll have access to all these artists. And then the opposite actually happened because the artists were getting overloaded. And they were like, no, we're going to back off. I don't think they would mind me saying this. And if they would like to volunteer, it's fine. But if they don't, we don't want them to feel pressured. And you volunteered. Of all
Yeah.
this is what show 53 or 54, I read it earlier. You're the only one that's been provided via the CMA Foundation.
What?
No,
Are you serious?
the rest we have done organically through our connections. And I love it that you said, I'm game. I'm a teacher, I'm a player, but I want to be an educator and be a part of this program. And I really respected that. And so I wanted to give CMA Foundation some props for their support, but also how much they believe in you. And you're doing some things with them. I looked up yesterday and today the stay camp, and you're one of the hosts.
Yeah.
A great opportunity that's coming up July 1st. I saw a teaser. I watched your pentatonic scale.
Look at you, Julie, up on it. Yeah, so we did the CMA Summer Music Camp where I taught a pentatonic scale. Anybody wanting to learn some guitar chops out there, you can check that out. And I'm hosting CMA Summer Stay K with Jimmy Allen tomorrow, which I'm so excited about. And I just have to say that is so crazy that I'm the only artist that.
Well, that might. I don't want that to sound like a criticism. I'm just.
No, no, it doesn't sound like criticism at all. I have to say that everything that CMA does and the CMA Foundation do to make country music feel like a family, they're just so incredible at getting, the top execs of our industry and combining and connecting like mentors with new artists. And they're just so good at integrating our industry so that it truly feels like a family, because that's what we are as country music. But sometimes it can be just so fast paced that it turns into being about the work compared to being about the reason why we do what we do. And CMA does such a good job at remembering that reason and yet still being so efficient. And from the first thing I ever did with the CMA Foundation, they have inspired me from the get-go. I mean, I would not be sitting in this chair, I would not be living in this town if it wasn't for incredible music education. And so anything I can do to give back and to help music programs in school and to help inspire music teachers to just keep continuing to inspire the kids that they get to teach and talk to every day, I will do it. I believe so wholeheartedly in everything that the CMA Foundation does, because I feel like it has a lasting effect on kids. And I feel like it's teaching our next generation to truly use their gifts in the best way possible. It doesn't need to necessarily mean that they pursue careers in the music industry, but I feel that music is such an incredible outlet, and it can either turn into a music career or it can be such an incredible outlet so that they can truly apply themselves to what they want to study. I think life is so much about a balance, and having really great music programs in school is just, I think the influence, the positive influence it has is just infinite.
No, I love what you said about CMA and family. And that even has been very evidenced by what, we thought when we were getting into this. And then, everybody was like, oh, I'm open for gigs. And then suddenly, no, our people are overwhelmed. And I really respected that. So
Mm.
while it wasn't the exact connection to artists directly, I thought it would be, I totally appreciated the family aspect and that they were putting their artists first in terms of their health and well-being. And but kudos to you for doing this. So I think,
Well, you're so sweet. It is absolutely my pleasure. I will be here to support the CMAs and the CMA Foundation however I can. And yes, they are the best at respecting artists and truly having our back with whatever that might be.
so I'm going to change my order of things based on what you just said, actually. You were talking about music and the power of music and whether you're not, if you're have access to music and become a performing artist, or if it just influences your life. I think, there's lots of advocacy going on right now. And I'm married to a historian, and we talk a lot about the fact that the arts and sports are the two things that can make the entire world pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves them, everybody needs them. And I wonder if you could just speak. We've talked about COVID and then the pivot to social justice, and how we've almost had two pandemics in one, and these are all not bad things. So, what are some causes that you, Lindsay, believe in as a human that you, and I know you're vegan and I am, which I love about you,
You are? That's amazing.
out tonight, and I've been vegan for 8 years.
Wow.
But are there some, whether they relate to animals or social justice, or how are you using your stardom to advocate for the causes that you believe in?
I feel like music is the universal language that can really bring us all together, as well as you have people within the music industry or people who athletes who play sports, that I feel like during these times in our lives where there's just so much going on, there's so much chaos, that sometimes people who have a voice can do good with it. And I feel like now, as a time more than any, is a time for people to use their voice to do good.
Mhm.
And so at the beginning of COVID, even throughout this whole journey, and as we're learning more about the virus and learning more about what to do and what not to do, I think it's important that we all use our voices for good. Whether you're talking to 4 people or 4 million people, I think it's our responsibility as human beings on this planet, and in this society, is to help spread that good news, and to help our fellow neighbors. So it has always been a huge part of my heart and my brand to use my platform for good. I want my music to help people. I want this next album we're releasing to help people. And in the next few weeks, I'm so excited to talk about some of the things we have coming up, which I hope will be able to help a lot of people. There are so many causes that are near and dear to my heart. Obviously, music education is a huge one, with especially everything that the CMA Foundation does. I love really helping kids. I love, I've done a lot with St. Jude Children's Hospital in the past. I love anything that can help inspire kids and help make them feel safe and help them feel more whole in order to pursue their lives in whatever direction they want to, because I truly feel that investing in that next generation is what is going to make our planet a better place. And the next generation just has this beautiful light that we need to foster. We need to take care of that next generation just as people took care of us, so that we can make sure that we're building incredible leaders and everything that will, be in charge of the world in a few years. So I love supporting anything that does with or deals with focusing on kids and making sure they're in the best environments to learn and to live life to the fullest. And as well as I am definitely a here I am woman, hear me roar. There obviously has been a lot that has changed as being a female in country music, but I just think that even in the past few years, being a woman, it's a time to stand up for what you believe in. It's a time to really put your 2 feet on the ground and be like, this is where I stand. And I think over the past 2.5 years, I've really focused on that and being not afraid to speak up and and talk about things that I want to talk about. Posting Black Lives Matter on my socials. As a country artist, it was so sad to see there were 2 ways that fans would react. And I knew that was going to be taken a number of different ways. But I'm just at this point in my life where it doesn't matter to me. I mean, this is what I believe in. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to use my voice for good, and I'm trying to inspire other people for it. And if there are people who are fans who don't believe in that, then okay, then go follow something that you believe in, because life is too short to follow people that you don't believe in. And if you don't want to listen to what I have to say, then I don't want you to listen to what I have to say. I want to find fans who want to listen to that. And so it's just become a lot more about really standing up for what I believe in, and again, not caring what people think about it.
That deserves more applause than a song. No, that's beautiful. Yeah, good for you. I'm so glad we have people like you. And I hadn't really thought about the country. My husband used to watch NASCAR, and we've been talking a lot about
Yes,
has gotten out on this, and how
absolutely.
Richard Petty company is really taking some hits, but most everyone's really supporting that. And I think it's noble and brave, and it just speaks to your integrity that you have to go with your heart and do when we have the opportunity to seize that moment. So
Absolutely. And
grateful for you, and I hope we have more do the same.
thanks, Julie. I think that right now it's gotten bigger than a political issue. It's gotten bigger than this is left, this is right. This is a humanity issue. And anytime it's a humanity issue of us learning to become better people living on this earth and learning to love each other, I even am sad that we have so much going on. It's hard to focus on one thing right now and really show those people that they matter, and this time is it's just, I guess it's very important to focus on the right things.
Yes. And it's difficult to get in those battles, you know, but it's important to put it out there, and hopefully, stars like you have their influence and they can convert a few of the naysayers along the way,
Absolutely.
the power of the music. We are over time.
I know.
I haven't even looked at the clock. I was like, oh my God, it's 8:05. I'm abusing Lindsay right now. Do you, just for wrap up, I've got my closing spiel. Do you want to promote your album or talk about the timeline, how we can purchase that, or play something else, or that's just
You're so sweet. Yes, Julie, I'm so excited. I've been, like I said, working on this record for the past 2.5 years, and these are songs that have just come from my heart, and I really hope this music can do a lot of good. The record's coming out August 14th, so it'll be out in a couple months, but it's up for pre-order now. We officially have it out there. Yeah, you can go hear the brand new song I just played a little bit ago, Want Me Back, as well as we'll have another song dropping in a couple weeks, even less than that. So the next couple months will be pretty exciting with updates, but yeah, August 14th is the day.
All right. August 14th, everyone, mark your calendars. Lindsay, are you good? I do the wrap up now, or?
Absolutely, Julie. Thank you so much for having me on. This has been such an enjoyable conversation. This hour went by so fast.
Same. I was like, oh my gosh. No, you're amazing. I'll do a quick wrap up here and we'll do our post call. So everyone, this is our closing spiel. Turn in weeknights, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central Time to keep watching Keeping the Beat live. And please remember to tell your friends about our program and make sure to like our social media pages. We are archiving this entire series of videos on our YouTube page and Facebook. So it's not about the live engagement as much as it is about providing a resource in the long term. We are going to wrap up this program on July 15th because we're all getting back to our jobs. So we've got another couple of weeks here, and we've got some big artists that I want to talk to you about. Tomorrow night, we host Texas legendary music educator Jerry Junkin. And then Thursday, we have Dr. Ergene Khan. She's going to be talking about a Black African-American composer, Florence Price, who is also from I think it's Oklahoma, where she teaches. Sorry, Chelsea, if I butchered that. Next week on Monday evening, we host music educator Jasmine Fripp. And Lindsay, I don't know if you've seen Jasmine, but you would totally dig her message if you want to check her out on social. But she's generated a lot of positive conversations on the topic of ending racism in music education.
Amazing. And I can't wait. I definitely will check her out.
She's going to be on our show, but she's been on all kinds of podcasts, and she posted some really critical letters on her Facebook page, and she's gone viral in a good way. I look forward to meeting her. Tuesday of next week, and Ed, her tour manager, is listening tonight. He's been commenting, and I haven't been able to read any comments because we've been talking so much, but we'll be interviewing music rock and roll Hall of Famers Joan Jett and Kenny Laguna next Tuesday night, a week from tomorrow night. So rather than speak about their music, Joan and Kenny want to talk about how they use, like you, their platform as rock stars to advocate for causes that speak to them personally. Really looking forward to that. And it's going to be a special show that you all won't want to miss. And then Thursday of next week, we have Spencer Lightsey and friends who have ties with the Kennedy Center and much more. And they're going to be talking, it's sort of a jazz play, but kind of COVID instead of kind of blue, a jazz quarantine conversation. For anyone who wants to see the calendar of guests, it's at tnmea.org/keepingthebeat. And that's got all the programs through when we close on July 15th with our Keeping the Beat staff that night. And finally, I just want to say thank you to Lindsay. There's all this pre-work with managers, and then just getting to be with you tonight and meet the person who is the star has been really special for me. So I thank you for making this easy and genuine and impactful and inspiring. So thank you, Lindsay, and everyone, please have a great night.